Hey folks, Sam Basu here. Are you doing more than .NET? Hopefully your apps run seamlessly across platforms and devices from a single shared code base, and hopefully they're written with Uno Platform. Now, you may have heard some hype about Uno Platform's AI and design tooling. How do you get situated with all of this latest tooling for modern .NET cross-platform development inside arguably the best IDE in the world, that's Visual Studio? So let's get into it. Now, I'll start with a confession. I've been doing .NET for 20 years now, and I increasingly find myself on macOS or Linux using VS Code or other IDEs. But let's face it, most .NET developers are on Windows using Visual Studio. So how do you get situated with all of the latest things? So let's start here with our documentation here. This is Uno Platform Docs. And if I go up here to get started and my setup guides, you can see that I have a lot of choice. Now let's start with Visual Studio. So we like saying that it's agnostic to whichever OS, whichever IDE and AI agent that you want to use. Let's say you are in Visual Studio. So first up, get Visual Studio VS 2022 or 2026, and get the right workloads. Obviously, the web stuff, the multi-platform app stuff, some .NET desktop stuff. And then what you like to get is for sure the Uno Platform extension. This lights up a lot of our templates and some of the tooling. And before you do any of that, do run this Uno check. This is a command line tool. So we are depending on some of the underlying SDKs for iOS and Android and Windows and Mac to build true cross-platform apps. And this one command line tool is going to get you situated. So make sure you do that. So now I'm on a Mac until now, but let's actually get to my Windows box, which I'm clearly remoting in. So I'm in the Windows world of things, and I have Visual Studio 2026 running here, the latest versions here. So we'll wait for it to come up, and it's showing me my existing projects here, but let's just say I want to create a new project. So this is where that extension really comes in handy. I clearly have the Uno Platform app template. So I can hit next here, and I can go through the wizard. What it does here, it's trying to set you up into a pit of success. So you are already well set up with your Uno Platform cross-platform app. So this is essentially a template that says, where do you want to start? We have a blank template or a recommended template. You choose your runtime. Then you choose all the places where your app runs, iOS, Android, desktop. We prefer doing Skia rendering for the UI, but you can also do Windows App SDK with WinUI. Presentation layer, MVVM, MVUX, markup, C# or XAML, theming, extensions. You choose all of that, and features. What all do you need in your app? You set up all of this, and at the end of it, when you hit create, Visual Studio is going to scaffold a new project for you that is Uno Platform, runs everywhere from a single shared code base, right? So I already have a project, so let me come out of that, right, and show you what the experience looks like. So I'm going to bring up Visual Studio one more time here and take you into a very simple kind of a hello world app. This, by the way, if I go back to my browser, we have lots and lots of samples. So I'm showing you the counter example here. This is a very simple app, but it showcases how the dev experience is like. And it comes in a variety of flavors with C# or XAML markup and a couple of design templates, design patterns that you can do. So let me bump up my fonts here just a little bit more so you can all see. So this is latest Visual Studio. And from the get-go, you can see like it's checking a bunch of things. I'm going to close out and look at the solution first. So here is an Uno Platform app. And before doing anything else, like this is on GitHub, so you can download this, you can run this. I'm going to hit run here on the desktop mode. So it just runs locally on the desktop. So you're going to see that simple counter example. Once this pops up, it's going to be a simple UI, which lets me hit a counter, and it increments the count every time I do so. So super simple app, but it showcases what the dev story is like inside of Visual Studio. So here's the app, and all it's doing here is it's incrementing the counters, right? So what you'll notice here is a couple of things in this app itself. So there is hot reload, so it's realizing I have my code in my IDE in Visual Studio. And I can do hot reload and hot design with it. So this is our design surface. So your app is still running, but I can go into a mode where I can still interact with my app. So I can hit those buttons and increment the counter size, or I can go back into selection mode, and now I can select individual, UI pieces. I have my toolbox with all types of UI. I have my elements tree, which is showing me the visual markup. And once I select an element, I can change up its properties, and hot reload makes sure any code changes between your IDE and this design surface always stays in sync, right? So let's go back to our running app. It's clearly running and it's working. So this is just a hot design with hot reload experience. But what about all this AI stuff, right? Because we don't want to hand code all of this ourselves. AI can be a huge productivity boost. So let's go back into our solution here, and I'm going to open up GitHub Copilot, maybe a fresh chat here. So what all do you need to get started? First up is if I show you where our model context protocol things live. This is MCP. We have two of them here. There is a remote MCP, which gets you the context about all of our documentation. So your AI agents are grounded in the latest documentation. They have the latest, best practices and initialization help. And then there's the app MCP, which is essentially for app interactivity. We like saying your AI now has eyes and hands, so it can click on things. It can actually verify what it's doing. So lots of tools in there here as well. So let's go back into Visual Studio. And in GitHub Copilot, I am in agent mode. You can choose any of the large language models that work for you. But let me hit this settings icon here. So you'll notice here that I have a few MCP tools. So it's picked up a couple of things just because it's a Visual Studio project. So here are the docs MCPs, or just the Uno MCPs. And then there is the Uno app MCPs, which is all of the interactivity bits while my app is running. So you want to make sure all of those two things are always checked. If you are curious what we are doing behind the scenes, so this is the actual folder. So there is a VS Code or a VS project in here. These are like, hidden files that the IDE is reading. So there is an MCP, file in here that we are dropping. So let's open this up inside of Visual Studio. And in here, you're going to see those two MCP app servers. If for some reason you don't see them in the GitHub Copilot list, just come in here and manually start them up. But you should see them automatically inside of most IDEs, right? So now that I have those two MCPs listed, let's talk to AI, right? So I'm going to start out saying, do you have access to Uno, if I can type, Platform MCP Tools? So let's say what GitHub Pilot says, because it should, again, read those configuration files and find those MCP tools. This is really, bringing the context to AI, so the AI agents don't, do things blindly. They know exactly the docs and the best practices. They know the tools. They know the interactivity bits. So it's saying, hey, I know about documentation. I know about guidance. And I can do a bunch of app testing for automation of UI testing. If you ask me to, prompt it to do something, it shouldn't just, write up some code. It should validate what it's doing. So it's just saying, hey, I see all of this and I'm well set up. So now this is a counter example written with MVVM. But what if I wanted to switch this up to the new MVUX pattern? So let's ask Copilot here. What do you know about Uno Platform MVUX pattern, right? So what you're going to see here is GitHub Copilot is not going to guess. It knows the docs MCPs, and it knows how to actually go ahead and run those things. So it's asking me, like, should I go ahead? And again, I have kept these on for, just to show you. But once you hit confirm and, you validate, it's not going to keep asking you over and over again. It knows how to do a docs, search and a docs, fetch. So it's saying here, I looked up the docs. Here's the core concept. This is how you do MVUX pattern. Here's how your views are. Here's how the update loop works. And here is MVUX versus MVVM. And, would you like me to convert the counter app to MVUX? So, it's trying to really help. But this is, again, just the grounding with the docs, and you have this. But where it really shines is when your app has, interactivity bits, and AI is not just generating code, it's actually validating what you do. So we already have those MCPs wired up. So my app is running here, right? So I have the increment counter, I have the button here, and it's showing me a count. So let's just see if AI can actually interact with our app, right? So let's say, can you click on the counter button in the running app and check what's the current count, right? So this is something that if you ask in a generic AI, it will obviously not know. But here, oops, let's go back to full screen mode here. Actually, the split screen is nice here, so you can see the app current count. So let's do question mark and fire it away. So now GitHub Copilot has to have some intelligence, like it has to know how to interact with the app. So it's found those MCPs, like how do I get runtime info? So I'm going to let it. So now it's going to look through the app and figure out that it's running. And it's not just about, here it's trying to take a screenshot because it's trying to see what does the app look like. The user is asking me to click on a button. I don't know what the app looks like. So how do I figure this out? So now it's going to inspect the visual tree. So it can see that the app is running, and now it's trying to get a visual tree snapshot. This gives you the inner XAML working. So how is the UI exactly situated? So this is really the power of what you see with contextual AI and MCPs playing in. So now it's saying, hey, I see a button. Would you like me to click on it? And sure. So now it can type in text. It can click on any part of your app. So it actually did click, and you can see the counter go up. So it's saying, hey, I clicked on this button. Now let me take another screenshot visually to see what the count is, right? So it's going to try to reading that label counter there. And yeah, perfect. Successful. Clicked on the button. It was 5. Now it went for 6, from 5 to 6. So clearly it is working, right? So this really is the power of contextual AI. So what we have done here again is use any AI agent, GitHub Copilot. If you're inside of Visual Studio, that's the most natural choice. But please make sure you have the UNO Platform MCP and the UNO Platform App MCPs wired up here inside. That way, your AI is always grounded. And while your app is running, let's go back into hot design one more time. So far we are using the AI agent, that being GitHub Copilot, inside of our IDE. But once I go into this design mode, I can do all the design stuff. But let's say I want to change up something in my app UI. There is an agent right here as well. This is called the hot design agent, and you can ask it things about the UI that's on that page. Change up the button, give me a login screen, make me a list of things, and here's a full-blown agent, which is again very contextual to platform apps, sitting there waiting for your instructions to get to work, right? So what I'm trying to say is, if you are on Visual Studio, you have all types of AI help to be that much more productive as a developer, building cross-platform apps with UNO Platform. So let's go back to my browser here, start off at platform.uno, get Visual Studio on Windows, and get situated, get the latest bits, the SDKs, the extensions with UNO Platform, and get situated with all of the AI tooling to be super productive building .NET cross-platform apps. That's it from me. Hope this keeps you productive, and we can't wait to see what you're going to build. And thank you so much for watching.